the Comics-Related Madness Network. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Wham with Silverline. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing great.
He's good.
Nice, gentle rain.
You'll have to excuse my cat. She's probably going to make an appearance every now and then.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Just add some more excitement to her. Yeah, and what's the cat's name?
This one is Blue, and I have another one that's Gold. Yeah.
Blue and Gold. Mr. Gold?
No, they're both females. They both hate each other.
Okay. Yeah. I have a cat named Rookie, but he's a barn cat. He takes care of our chipmunks and mice and rats. So yeah,
We are currently catless. Sad, but also that works for us at the moment because we're tired. We travel a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We have a captured feral cat. Yeah, we have a captured feral cat. So,
oh wow!
Yes, a gray cat. So he or she, we're not sure which, has been gone for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then suddenly showed up again. Wow. we don't know what's going on. My suspicion is that she was off having kittens.
Yeah, most likely.
Now that they are old enough, she has come back. But as I said, we don't know whether it's a he or a she, but that's my deduction from because she came back and was just like she hadn't left, just took right up in her running of the household outside, but we don't have an indoor cat, but we have one we hope is helping keep the mice down. Who knows?
Oh, hello, the time scales from San Francisco. Hello. Hey. So, all right. So, yeah, I've been there once. It was an interesting experience.
I haven't been there since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So, but
I went and saw the redwoods there. And that was a mind-blowing experience. And the really cool thing to learn was like their root system is not very deep at all. The reason why they stand is because they all interlock like this, and it's like you're like, is this tree gonna fall over? But they're all holding.
Yeah, you can actually see the roots above the ground. Yeah, quite a bit of the roots are above the ground. Yeah, I think I was only 4, but it was so impressive that I can remember it. So yeah.
I do apologize for 1 second. I just have to block my ghost dog here. Hang on.
Ghost dog. I'm trying to remember how to spell archive.
ARCHIVE.
Yep.
That's one word I can. But there are a few out there. I go, how does that spelled again?
All right, let's introduce everybody. So up in the corner over that way is Barb Kellberg, the Empress of Inks. Tell us what you're up to, Barb.
I've just finished a few pages on the top secret project, and
she's been cranking those puppies out.
Yeah, over Rob's pencils. Divinity 4 is completely finished on my part, except for one more cover, and it's off to letters, and then it will be ready to go. I think it's launching in July.
Nice.
Yep.
All right,
and then fingers crossed that it does. Yay.
Yep.
And
I'm currently doing rewrites on number 6.
All right.
Yeah.
And down below us we have Venerable Rob Davis.
And everyone hopefully who watches this on a regular basis knows who I am, where I've come from. What I've been working on is I was ahead of Barb by about 3 pages, and now she's caught up on the secret project. So I'm going to have to get back to that. But in the meantime, I've been working on the other book that I've been working on, Boston Bombers, with Ron Portier, and I've got 1 page left to do. And in fact, that blank page right there over my shoulder is that last page to do. Once I get that done, and I get the cover for that book done, then I'll jump over and start pumping out more pages for the secret project. So that's where I am. Plus, I'm doing a lot of work on the Airship 27 books. We just pushed another one of those out the door last week, and I think the last show we did, I showed the pencils of the cover for that. When you tapped me on the shoulder and said, "What's that on your table?"
Yeah,
I held it up to the camera. The horned devil on the cover, and the 4 guys standing in front of him. But that's the devil from Airship 27. Head on over to Amazon now and order your copy.
Let's see if I can get my finger to point the right way. And our new addition over here.
This guy.
Kasisi, welcome to the jungle.
Hey, thank you for having me. Kasisi Harris. So I do not have a large body of works, but I am working on the new, the script is all finished, and we're working on the art for the new Silverline team up with Tempest and Miss Fury, and then a new character. So that's in work. Got to see some pages coming, and then working on my own stuff. So I have my own comics that I do that are out. So on page 13 of 18 of one that's coming out soon. So
awesome.
Now, when you
say, hey, Pops.
So you're not gonna, hey, Tom.
And so when you say you're working on your own stuff, are you penciling, inking, writing? What are you?
I write and hire artists. So
you write and hire. Okay, all right.
I have several out. I consider myself working my 1,000 bad pages so I can get to one good one, and I'm only on about 80 or so. So
it's like going to Germany with the Beatles. They left a second-rate band and came back a great band.
Yeah,
is that all that practice, man? That's what it takes.
So I just put all my stuff out for free, just working through. Just producing comics, that whole cycle, and getting a whole bunch of reps in doing that. So this is, I think, my 6th book that I'm doing.
There you go.
Yeah. Getting the reps in.
Yep. Exactly.
All right. And I'm Martin Mertonen. I am the colorist on Wolf Hunter. I'm still plugging away on issue number 2. And it is hopefully going to be done very soon, so that Roland can get that out the door so everybody can read the next exciting chapter. It has a nice, wonderful train chase on it. I don't want to give too much away, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. And this week we are going to be talking about old school layouts versus new school layouts in comic books. I'm hopefully going to redeem myself from butchering our Miss Fury. So hopefully
glitches happen, man. Glitches happen.
Hopefully we can get the technology to work. So now, back in the day, I guess when comics were starting, they kind of decided to just, do things in a very straightforward manner, and they kind of stuck things in boxes and put them on a page. And so we'll take a quick look at.
I think the earliest comics were reprints from comic strips from the newspapers.
Yeah.
So they stripped them in three levels to make a page, and that kind of stuck for a while as the format. Once they went to new stuff.
6-panel grid pattern was pretty popular right at the beginning.
Yeah. So now, interestingly enough, Miss Fury was a 9-panel grid, and I'm not sure if that was because of comics.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Uh-oh.
We lost.
And off he goes.
We lost our leader.
That's what happened with Miss Fury is just kicking his behind.
Taking him out. Taking him out.
She keeps taking him out. He tries to bring up stuff, and he pops out like that. So Rob had to vamp because it was just him and me that week. So the 9-panel grid you were talking about.
Yeah.
6-panel grid is pretty much what started it. And there were a lot, I think there were more panels, weren't there, that they would jam into comics at the very beginning?
Well, I think like I was saying, there were the first comics were reprints of comic strips, and sometimes the Sundays, and those would be in some cases the Sundays were four lines. So there would be 3 or 4 panels to each line. So they would really jam them in there. Are you back, Martin?
I think I am. I hope I am.
Okay. There's one.
Yeah, there we go.
3, 6.
There's a 9-panel page.
3, 6, 9, 12.
12 panels.
Yeah,
that's
like a Sunday strip.
Yeah. And the first panel is the the title. So
I can't count.
That's done a lot in
1, 2,
comic
3, 4,
strips,
5, 6, 7,
especially on Sundays.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
All right, so we'll zoom in.
Wow. Gosh, that's very effective layouts.
That would really, really constrict your word balloons.
Yeah, it would.
You couldn't put a lot in each word balloon. Or as Cassisi just schooled me on recently, because he edits Divinity for me. He's one of my new editors. He and Todd Mason. I did not know this, that the general rule of thumb is that you're not supposed to have more than 35?
Yeah. If you have 6 panels.
35 words in a panel.
If you have 6 panels, right? So more if you have less than 6 panels, and then less, obviously, if you have more. But it looks like they packed a ton into these.
I was just going to say, look at panel number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Look at panel 8 with the guy's head. Good God.
Yeah, I think what they did, though, it's very simple. It's just his face, so you don't have to worry about covering up any kind of art in the background.
Right. Yeah. She had to cover a lot of ground, apparently, in that panel.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's an info dump, as they call it.
Yeah.
Probably.
Although he thinks the chemical in that vat is water, he's suspicious after seeing the chemical disintegrates a rabbit, and he seems to have divined that I mean to dispose of him the same way. Well,
No.
I'll get him out from under there if I have to drain him or brain him. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks like
I believe
brain.
it's brain. I believe
Yeah.
it's brain. Yeah. But yeah, it's
So,
an
but
info
that-
dump. Yeah.
So that said, though, like you got these panels. The interesting thing that I find with the 6-panel grid is that it's consistent and steady. And what ends up happening with the 6-panel grid is you end up getting sucked into the story because you don't have to think about what am I
Which
looking at,
panel's next? Yeah.
what's going on. You
Uh-huh.
just end up really focusing on what's happening each individual little spot there. So yeah, and so we get some glam shots of or heroine here, Miss Fairy, in her outfit, and she's guess she needs to climb a wall or something, so she climbs the wall, gets onto the roof.
What year was this done?
So this would be, well, she started in 39.
39. Okay.
And then she ran for 10 years. So I believe she started in 39.
It's a Floramonte flyby.
Oh, is it Tommy Floramonte? Hey, y'all. Hey,
Hi,
Tommy.
Hey.
Yeah. So the other thing I really like about this is the colors are so simple, but they're effective, right?
Mhm.
It's just like everything pops and everything's kind of really.
Yeah, and in that last panel, you can tell she's
Mhm.
she's outside in the dark with the
Right.
light coming on her.
Mhm.
That's very, very effective.
Oh, so
Yeah.
I just noticed something very interesting here. So this is kind of cool. I'm gonna pull out my red pen and do the draw over here.
Yeah, I think you're going to catch it. Yep.
So
What?
here, so these 3 panels. If you notice, she's lined up the panels here with. Am I drawing? What's going on?
The
Where's my
three
pen?
on the right from top
There we
to
go.
bottom.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
these 3,
they all have her in it. Yeah.
they all have her
Mm.
in
And-
these panels, and they're all looking this way, right? They're
Mhm.
all
The top one does. There's 4 panels.
yeah. So
Yeah.
technically, here she's looking that way, but so that's very interesting. So you got that sequence where she's
That's good
always-
storytelling.
Mhm.
That's
So-
she didn't break that the 180 rule.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's nice. Uh-oh, there he goes again.
Oh no.
What's the 180 rule?
Yeah, what is the 180 rule?
No. Well,
Please
it's
explain.
okay when you've got 2 people talking
Mhm.
back and forth, and if you want to move the camera around, if you start looking at them this way, you can't break the line between them moving the camera.
Ah.
That's it. So you've got this 180-degree area that you can move around, but you don't break this plane. Now, that's not a hard fast rule. It's a general rule, because if you slowly rotate the camera around them, you could go 360 degrees. But for the most part, when you've got 2 characters talking to each other, you don't break that 180 line.
I'm writing
That's-
that down. That's
yeah.
nope. Yeah.
But it's broken all the time. You look at comic books, it gets broken all the time. But it's more effective storytelling if you try and keep that plane unbroken. So, but she did that in those 3 panels that he was pointing out. She said she's always looking in that direction. Even he moved the camera a little bit, so she's looking inside the window, but it still hasn't broken that plane of where she's looking in from that side. I
Mm.
guess it would be this side now.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
writing I've taken over the writing of Divinity, and I was clueless when I started Divinity about scripting, and RA taught me a lot, and I'm learning as I go too. And the biggest thing that I focus on is the direction of the people in the panels, because they're going to speak.
Yep.
So always the person that's going to speak first has to be on the right side of the panel.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense usually.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it has
yeah,
to
I
be
think
on.
it depends on some things, but yeah.
Yeah, because since we read left to right, they have to. That first person that speaks has to be on the left-hand side of
Yeah.
the panel.
or the left hand side, right? The
Yeah.
left hand
Yeah.
side, and the second
Mhm.
person, and so you cannot go first person speaks, second person speaks, then first person speaks again, unless it's done well, because
Right.
otherwise you've got crisscrossing.
Yeah, I
Word
actually
balloon.
saw a Rex Morgan comic strip last week. They reprint old ones from the 50s and 60s where he actually had the balloon tails cross. And I
Crossing?
went, oh man, that's a no-no. But it's done back in the
Oh my
50s. He
God.
actually crossed
Yeah.
the balloon tails.
He's a rebel.
Yeah, it was
And if
horrible.
you're going to have person number 2 talk first in the next panel, then you've got to flip them
Yes, yeah.
so that you're looking at them from the opposite side. And you have to
And
remember that when you're doing the
that's when
scene
you
setup.
break that 180 rule that I was talking about. So
And you
You
can
gotta-
play with it too, depending on what level they are in the panel too, though. So
Yes.
it's
So
also,
yeah.
it's also top to bottom, so you can sometimes
Yes.
play with it depending. Shout out
Yeah,
to Chris, though. Chris learning about the 36 word page and 180 rule.
So thanks for filling in the hole there, guys. I disappeared again, and I was talking for 5 minutes, and I'm like, what? Oh, they haven't heard a thing I said. Okay. Anyways, here's a follow-up page, which has a slightly different layout.
yeah, that's 246 essentially, but because they broke up the first and the third panel into 2
Mhm.
panels, which is an interesting effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
Zoom in on that.
yeah, I will zoom in. So this allows us to.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very
and you
very
know,
good storytelling.
this is an older book, correct? You notice
Yeah,
that
this-
so far,
This is all comic strip.
yeah, so
Yeah.
far I haven't seen any of these break the panel, because breaking
Yes,
the panel now is super popular, and it has
Correct.
been since
Uh-huh.
I don't know, 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
which is when I started, was the 80s, and got prompted to start doing overlapping panels. So
Mhm. But in earlier ones, they had a tendency, especially if they are.
there he goes again. This is the kind of stuff we were having that week.
The
Wow.
Curse of Miss Fury, is that what this is?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
afraid so.
That's funny.
Especially, as I was saying, if they are collecting comic strips, then
Yes.
almost universally there is no breaking of the panel. But
Mhm.
they were, the old timers were, they weren't very adventurous when it came to breaking the panel. There you could see a few, but boy, but
Jack Kirby
hit
for
the
one. Yeah.
hit the
Did that a lot.
80s, and it just became crazy. There's
Mhm.
not hardly a page that hasn't got at least one broken panel.
You
Right.
think that, and I don't know if any of us know this for sure, but do you think that is also a function of the technology they had at the time? It's just simpler for
Yeah.
the equipment that they had to print in neat,
Well,
constrained areas.
the difficulty comes in when you have something that bleeds off the page.
Mhm.
That's really difficult to pull off, especially on newsprint, because newsprint gets out of register really easy and quickly as it's running through the press. And after a while, it comes out of register. Sometimes what you meant to bleed off doesn't bleed off,
Yeah.
and you get this really rough, nasty looking edge. So that's probably one of the reasons they didn't want anything to bleed off the edges. So you always had an edge around the whole page.
Yeah, and
So
with the
I think
advent
you're
of
right.
with the advent of digital coloring, breaking the panel became much more popular
Mm.
And easier to pull off. Yeah.
and easier to pull off. That's right. Something else that I remember was a big splash on the scenes was completely black gutters.
Yeah.
Right.
That wasn't done in the old days either. But when I first saw my first book with black gutters, I was like, oh, this is so
Yeah.
dynamic. Very
Yeah, it made everything
atmospheric.
pop, didn't it?
Yeah,
you
very
were used to
atmospheric.
seeing that white gutter suddenly
Mhm.
having black there. Wow, it was
Makes
that made
my
everything pop.
pages curl up like a son of gun.
That's partially why they didn't do it. Probably was because every time you get that saturated black in there, and when you run things through the press, it actually goes through 3 different stages, 4 actually. So you've got yellow, magenta, and cyan blue, and then black. So it goes through 4 different things. And when you do black, it actually does all 4 colors. Mm-hmm. So you've got all that ink. You've got the yellow, the red, the blue, the black, all. So it's gonna, if it's on paper that's really cheap, like newsprint, it's gonna start curling and cupping because as that ink dries, it will suck the newsprint and make it curl. So yeah, that's probably why they tried to stay away from that.
Yeah, well, the original pages curl too when you're dumping a bunch of India ink on it. My hubby used to put those pages when I had black gutters. He used to put those pages, the dried pages, under several books to try to flatten them out for me.
Flatten them out, yeah, yeah.
Martin, I think maybe the problem is when you try to share your screen, you're popping out.
Yeah, maybe your bandwidth's is not standing up to it, which that stinks. But yeah, talking about modern technology.
Yes, I don't think your bandwidth is carrying the ability to share panels without popping you out, which sucks.
Which I don't think is. I don't know if that's. I think
is somebody watching? Is somebody watching something on streaming anything in the house?
Yeah,
that could eat up some of your bandwidth.
My boys are watching Pink Panther over in the other room.
That could have something to do with it. Yeah, but anyway,
we were talking about why the advent of black gutters was such a dramatic new thing in the last 3-4 decades. Yep. He'll probably be running next door and saying, "Shut that off."
It's funny when you guys describe black panels, all I can think of is just it costs a lot of money to do that. That seems like a lot of ink, a lot of high quality paper. And as a business owner, I would think, man, if I were to do that, I'm expecting a huge return on that product. Because that sounds like it's just.
Yeah, because they started using higher quality paper too, which would stand up to that extra ink. So you did have those extra costs, but in the 80s and 90s, comic books were still selling pretty well. Not at the height they were back in the 40s and 50s, but there were a lot of collectors buying multiple copies and such. Hey, Matthew. So I think they didn't care that much about it because the comics were really selling well. And I think it's gotten to the point now where you can control that so much better with digital that it's not as big a concern. You can cut down on what I think it's called saturated black, which is all 4 colors being printed when the black goes down. I think they can pull back on that a bit. I know Photoshop has settings for that, and InDesign, the program I use, also does that. So, did you get the Pink Panther shut off?
Yeah. So,
now he's coming to see what you're doing.
Yeah, no. Sorry guys.
Okay. Well,
yeah, they can't hear me because he's got headphones on.
Yeah. Here's something else that I think had some influence on the panel layout evolving over time, is that Marvel and DC, especially Marvel, had house styles for a long time. And it wasn't until they kind of let up on those rules and let the individual artists turn loose and express themselves in their own style that we saw a difference in panel layouts. Because
that's a good point. I think also with the advent of the Marvel style of writing, where essentially a loose plot was given to the artist and they were the ones who figured out how many panels per page, how the page was laid out, and so on. That I think that also maybe opened it up for that sort of thing again. So, I think it's just the evolution of comic storytelling as it went by.
I'm curious, Barb, now that you're taking over both writing and, art, and then Rob, which one do you prefer? I know that as a writer, I tend to not even suggest, what the panel construction should look like for the most part, because I want the artist to have free reign of how to tell that story.
Yeah.
I know, Barb, when I read yours, you do really hone in on, I want panels to just generally look like this. So
I do to a certain extent, and then there's other times when I'll say penciler's discretion.
yeah, you do. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen that too. Yeah, in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You
But
gotta
if I
turn
have a
your pencil
specific
loose.
image in my head, yeah, I'm gonna tell him what I want.
Mhm.
But I also still leave wiggle room in there. I like, for instance, I'll say, all right, this is going to be a view from above, but I don't say give them like minute details.
And
But
when you constrain it to that, are you in a traditional mindset of the grid when you do that? It feels like you are when you describe those things, or are you open to if
I'm
you
open.
gave them the panel? Okay. All right.
I'm thinking about it from a cinematography point of view when I'm writing it
Yep.
down. But I'm leaving enough wiggle room for the penciler. If he thinks he's got something better, go for it,
Okay.
or if he thinks that I try to leave enough flexibility in my instructions that they can tweak it.
And then
Yeah.
Rob, do you feel like you dislike when you are constrained in that way, or do you like to, because you're in a box, or do you feel like, okay, at least they told me exactly what they want, I don't have to guess? Like,
Yes.
I understand that.
I
too.
have worked.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, just to be funny. I've worked both ways. I've worked Marvel style when R.A. Jones and I were doing Scimitar way back in the late '80s, early '90s. We had to hit the ground running, and so we adopted the Marvel style. He
Mhm.
would send me the plot ideas he had. He'd break it down by page. There were certain beats he wanted to hit, but I got to break down the page and tell the story however I wanted to, and then I would send it back to him, and he would then script over that. But since then, most of the work I've done has been full script.
Mhm.
When I get a script, it looks like this,
Yep.
and it breaks down. It's like I'll read here. It says, over Mutongo's shoulder, looking at Pirelli as
Mhm.
she looks at him puzzled, and then he has two balloons. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I'll hold it closer so you can see.
Yep.
So you can see that, and it describes in panel 3 through panel 5, and then it goes to the next page. So, but I break that down differently. Here's that page. See, it has 2 panels. I did the 5 panels, but I broke them down the way I wanted to break them down. So, emphasizing what I think would be interesting storytelling.
Setting a panel in a panel.
Mhm.
Yeah, like an inset panel, as it's called.
Yep,
Yeah, that
yep.
first one. So, yeah, just to kind of break it up and give it, because this particular issue is all talking heads.
Mm.
So you have to make it, in order to make it visually interesting, you've got to do some backgrounds, you've got to have them doing stuff. And he's
Mhm.
given me all that, but then I have to build on top of that. So I like both ways of doing it, but lately it's been mostly full scripts because the writers I'm working with work that way. So yeah, it just whatever. And again, you're right, Cassisi. It's nice knowing everything that they want me to give them. And then once I figure out what they want, then I go, okay, what else can I give them?
Mhm.
How much further can I take it? What else can I do to make it even more visually interesting? So,
Yep.
adding little details in the background, little in jokes or, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. You got a Kirby page up there.
Yeah.
There's the master.
So
You got the
you mentioned
master
Marvel
there.
style. You mentioned Marvel style, so I brought that up. So Cassisi, I was just
Yeah.
going to say, if I as a illustrator or artist, I've done some children's books and stuff, and done some of my own comic stuff. And what? Excuse me, 1 minute.
While you're doing that,
Yeah,
I'll show people what I'm scanning through this research paper that somebody did an actual educational research paper on comic book panel layouts. Yes, they did. It's a very long read, and I'm trying to remember something that I saw in here, and of course I'm scanning through it. And I'm like, I'm not finding it now. But I read it earlier today in preparation for this, and they have graphs, and it's all about the evolution of comic book panels from the beginning to now.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite an interesting read, a little bit dry, but it is very knowledgeable. And they have graphs where they've plotted out different ways of, like gutters, no gutters, stuff like that. And the popularity of that type of style throughout the years.
Barb, the regressions and the correlations don't interest you? That's not those don't excite you? I'm looking at some of them right now.
Correlations?
Yeah, regressions and correlations, page 7.
They are very, very big on the Z layout.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
and you can see that on this page done by Kirby here.
Yeah, you can.
You really see it if realizing it's there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Zip, zip, zip. Yeah. And also, I've been read some stuff recently. Somebody was breaking down Kirby pages where he actually puts two different actions going on in the same panel. Like in panel 3, you've got what's happening in the background. That's one scene. And then you've got what's happening in the foreground, which is another scene. And he's combined the two in that one panel.
Mm-hmm.
That's masterful work. And then what he does in the very next panel, yes, those are the two. And then in the next panel, you've got actually, you feel the time that passes in that fourth panel, in that you see the torch going through and you see the guy jumping up. So you feel that time motion. You can feel that the torch has moved through and that this guy jumps at the same time. Just masterful. And then you're pulled because of that, the jumping lines, that pulls you down into that last panel, and it pulls you through to the end of that. And so you see it pulls you right through over to the torch on the far left, and then brings you back again into the word balloon, and then pulls you out of the page. It's just incredible work. And the man was doing multiple pages a day this way. Just crazy stuff.
So now I'm thinking that this is about maybe 20 years following the Miss Fury pages.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Fury starts like in
39-40.
Yeah, well, actually, I think it might have been a little bit later than that, because I think it ran into the 50s. Like it was 49
to 52. I think is just when she ended, if I remember
what I
read.
And then this is Kirby, and this is we're probably pushing the 70s in this.
Yeah, 68, 67, 68, I think.
So
when he was at his height on the Fantastic Four.
But he's still using the standard grid, but he's playing with it a little bit, as in like you got that bottom panel is now the 2 panels across. Here he's doing the 6 panel grid. And then if we jump over here, we just want to come. This is a black and white page, which is a 6 panel grid.
That's the standard 6 panel grid,
Yeah, that's the demon from DC.
That's a perfect Z there.
Probably 72, 71, 72, maybe. 70, 71.
Now, somebody else who is a master of standard grids is Alex Toth,
Oh,
and he did
yes.
Zorro. And here he has the underlying architecture is a 9-panel grid, but he's well, actually, you know what? It might even be 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bottom.
Those first three. Yeah, the first three.
But he's doing.
If you kept that going, it'd be 12 panels.
Yeah. So but he's breaking up that space in fascinating ways, and this guy's absolute master storyteller. If you every single mark that he puts on the page means something, and he only puts what's needed, and nothing more and nothing less.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely stunning. And again, if you're like, oh, but it's so stodgy. It's just a typical grid. But once you get into it, like, you're sucked right in. Like, my boys read this entire book in one sitting, and it's old school, right? Like, there's no color, nothing, and they loved it. And they're 8, right?
Yeah.
Similar to Al Williamson.
Yes. Well, his use of the gray tones, as they call it, bindays or zipatone, is just masterful here. Although that could be just, I don't know if that's color that's been, but it's gray tones.
No,
yes.
it was gray tones, yeah. And I'm going to pull up one more old school master here. Oh my
God,
Chester Gould, who you know, he's very stylized.
Yeah. Okay. So, but So I wanted to bring this in though because in a weird way, the Miss Fury kind of has a similar flavor to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. You're right.
But the Miss Fury stuff is more elegant, if I
yes.
And there seems to be what I would call more realism in the Miss Fury pages.
Fury one, yeah.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be Dick Tracy if we didn't have the pointy chin.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and the nose that could cut glass.
The thing that struck me though when I saw this, because I haven't looked at Dick Tracy in a long time, like, and to tell you the truth, I did not read Dick Tracy comics growing up at all. I had
I loved them.
Yeah,
I had no reference for the character until the movie came out.
And I mean, whoever thinks about a talking watch, you know?
Right. Right. So, anyways, the movie came out, and then I learned about the comics later. But now, and I have
Madonna. Oh, please tell me you're not referring.
What was that? Sorry.
The Madonna one.
Yes, Born Lady. So that was my reference point for Dick Tracy. Like, I had no idea.
I liked it, Barb. I liked the movie. It was
so. But
I didn't think Warren Beatty was good casting, but what the hell?
But seeing this page, it's everything is very clean and clear, and it pops. Everything pops, and I thought that was really interesting. I was like, wow, okay. There's an essence to this where it's just really strong. Lots of good design work, lots of like thicks and thins, and the whole, just really good stuff happening here. And then I'm going to pull up here Will Eisner,
another master.
Spirit.
So I'm pulling this up because this blows my mind. Like this. This compared to the Miss Fury pages is just so radically different, yet they're kind of coming from the same era. And there's just this, I don't know, like this is potent stuff.
Well, you were talking about ink earlier. Look at all the black on that page.
Yeah. So
lots of black on that page.
Yeah, so it's just really interesting. So, but each of these are all compelling in their own way. Like there's these different things going on. So yeah, so these are the old school things, and okay. So we got the grid, we got the grid here happening 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is probably based on a 12-panel grid of some kind, because if you want to split this down, right, split, all right. But then he decides his second row is going to be 2 panels, and then he then has 3 panels split down here. It's interesting. He makes the middle panel here narrower, right? So you've got a lot of interest happening on the page just from the panel layouts.
Yeah.
But he keeps.
See, there's already more of that going on, and it's not that much later, not that much after.
Yeah.
This
and then Will Eisner would be one of the first guys to start breaking panels out, and he would then like drop out the backgrounds and just do all sorts.
It'd
of
be
really
a silhouette of the
stuff.
characters inside in that panel area.
Yeah.
No borders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, borderless panels are kind of tough to pull off, especially when you're coloring them. Oh,
Yeah.
I do not like to color borderless panels.
All right, so let's slide over to our
new school
stuff here, and let's take a look at some of our Silverline books, and let's start with. Let me just see.
Total page bleeds are also popular now.
Yeah, anymore. Yeah.
One more note on the old stuff. When you consider like that Wally Woods 22 panels that always work, you can see it. It's almost disciplined, like in those old panels. I'm interested to see how well that translates to new. I know it's there still, right?
I know. I even referenced that in my latest script to my penciler. It's like, look at Wally Wood's 22 panels. It always look number such and such. I want that.
Yeah.
So here's our book rejects from Silverline, and what do we got going on here? Well, we got a 9-panel grid.
It's old school. Yeah.
So it's kind of an old school approach, but we've got word balloons all over. We got sound effects.
The sound effects are breaking the panel.
Yeah. Yep. The sound effects are breaking panels and stuff, and so this is and then we got like I'm gonna reference the Dick Tracy here. We got the solid blacks and the outlining and stuff like that. That's kind of making things very clean and concise. So you can see exactly what the characters are doing.
It's a cat flyby. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a cat flyby.
She has to let me know it's her time.
Yep.
Their camera time. Yeah.
But
Okay.
then in the space of 3 pages, now we have a very modern layout here. So, like, what's your grid here? Rob?
Yeah, it's gone, isn't it? It's completely gone, isn't it?
What is it?
Is it still easily followed?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but is the grid really gone?
No.
Not
It's
completely,
subliminal.
no.
It's still a Z pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well. So technically, it's I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This would be a 16-panel grid technically underneath, but it's that spacing has been used up in a very unique ways. So very dynamic page, very wonderful page, lots of fun. And then, well, what do we got going on here? Like, this is okay, very interesting. So, all right. So the modern has taken what has been given to it and just taken it to the next level, right? So, let's take a look at this.
Oh, okay.
Rob's work here. So this is an interesting page because you have the big panel on the outside. You have a borderless panel on the top right, and then you have these 2 panels in the middle that are inset, which is a very unique layout. And then you got this bottom panel. Like, are you working with a grid here, or what are you doing?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just I just eliminated some of the panel borders or
Yeah.
stretched it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Now-
still it's underlying it, but yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you formally arrange that, or did you use the blue lines that were already on the page, or how did you?
I lay out my own. I don't.
Right.
I do my own blue lines. I
Mm.
do the 10 by the 10 by what is it, 15 area, and then you can bleed out beyond that. But yeah,
Right.
and then I've also got lines off to the sides that show. So it could be 4 levels or 3 levels, either way. But when I do the thumbnails, I'm kind of thinking in a grid. But then when I get to the actual page, I say, well, how can I stretch that out and change it a little bit? But yeah,
Right.
I went kind of wild on that page. I didn't even remember that until you popped it up, and I went, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So-
the interesting thing with this page is you could probably, I'll bet you dollars to donuts, it probably fits the golden ratio, everything in it. And if you
Explain the
line up-
golden ratio to our audience.
It's basically 2/3, 1/3.
Mhm.
So, and it kind of is. Your top level, your top is the 2/3, and then you got your bottom panel, which is the 1/3, and then you got your top 2/3 is now split into thirds. So it kind of ends up being, everything's very systematic and
Isn't
even.
that golden ratio has something to do with kind of a spiral as well?
Well,
If I
it
recall
can.
correctly.
Yeah, that's the Fibonacci sequence.
Fibonacci.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Which is
All
but
right.
I don't think about any of that when I do it. I'm just trying to. I'm doing it seat of the pants, trying to figure out what's going to be interesting to look at.
Naturally a genius, Rob. That's how it works.
Well, reading comics since I was 8 years old, man. You absorb it. You
Yeah.
absorb it.
All right.
It's it's like osmosis. You kind of absorb it into your skin. So yeah, look at this one. Yeah.
So this is Divinity, Barb's book.
Mm.
Yeah, but
And
it was
this is-
scripted by R.A., who is where I learned almost all my scripting style, by the way.
Right. So-
So I'll give him the credit for the classic layout.
Yeah. So we end up with a 6-panel grid here.
Which is
Now-
interesting because that previous page was by R.A. Jones as well, the one I drew.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. So now what in your mind is happening is different here compared to something like what was going on in Miss Fury?
We're not. I mean, we're not squeezing as much onto a page for one thing. This has only got 5 panels.
yeah.
It's, and I hate to say this, but with today's audience and their attention span, would they sit through a 12-panel page?
Some might.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, depending on what's going on in it. I think if it was just, again, going back to what Cassisi said about, I don't know, I don't remember whether we did this before we came on the air or not, but only so many words per panel if there's so many panels on a page. And the more panels, the fewer words in each. So
Mhm.
12-panel page, if it doesn't have but a handful of words on it, man, that'll the kids will read that and it'll be gone.
Yeah.
But if it's got a lot of words in it too, they're going to go, I don't want to read all that. So yeah. And
That's a
besides, where's
talking
the-
head page. Yeah.
yeah. Besides, all the script is covering up all that cool art. So yeah.
I like
I
how Divinity's eyes are like, if you go by how you read it, her eyes
Yeah.
in the 3rd panel kind of aim you to her eyes in the 4th panel. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. It's good
Yeah.
storytelling.
yeah, this is classic Z. So the other thing that's interesting, the thing that I'm noticing here is the openness of the art.
Mm.
The art is open, and the art is, readable and very clean and concise, and you can see what's going on. I find that the even though the Miss Fury pages are compelling, there's a bit of a muddiness to them, or a little bit, like, just a little bit difficult
Well,
to.
they were creating a new art form.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
experimenting. And but they were doing some wonderful stuff, with the few skills that they had.
Mhm.
So we've learned a lot since then. But
All
that's
right.
and what I find interesting about this page is the coloring,
Mhm.
Yes, I was just going to
because
say that.
it's not natural at all, really. I
Mm-mm.
mean,
This
it's
was
almost a
colored.
very limited palette. You've got divinities in kind of an orange or warm colors, and the background is all these the greens and blues, and grays.
Mhm.
And even that the character in that second panel there, it almost feels like there's a blue wash over the background to
I
kind of
was going to
cover him
say
up
something about the
to make
coloring.
him go back.
Steve Matson from Boris fame, Boris the Bear fame,
Hmm.
did the first issue of Divinity, and he used markers. Just this is done old school, real old school
Oh,
with markers.
wow.
And I admire the fact that he made the main character pop. Everything else kind of fades in the background, so we get introduced to Vinny, our main character, through color. I mean, she really pops out.
Hmm.
It reminded me, and this particular page, you know what it reminded me of? Schindler's List.
Oh.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it continues with that. Yes, and then boom, or a different palette.
Mm-hmm.
Different palette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
All right. What do you guys want to look at next? We'll look at one or two more, and we'll wrap it up. We got Cat and Mouse. We got Wolf Hunter. We could do old school Cat and Mouse versus new school Cat and Mouse.
That'd be interesting.
Trump.
Dean Zachary has a very interesting art style. That
All right, let's take a look at that then.
Yeah, he loves to break the plane. He loves to do interesting
Yeah,
shaped panels.
Look at that panel on the lower right.
Mhm.
Wow. They got out the French curves for that one.
Yeah, he likes to mess with the shapes of the panels.
Yeah,
a lot. That's his inker on this. I'm very aware. See the little,
like this is crazy stuff. Like what is
works,
going on?
It works.
Yeah. This is a classic Z on that one right there.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
Lots of insets.
Yep. Insets and insets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's one page where they have the characters jumping. Well, up here, like here's these ninjas. They're just kind of flying
coming
through
at
space.
you, right? Yeah, right in your face. They're coming right at you. And that one there, where you tilt the camera angle, is also very effective.
Yes. Yeah.
Full panel, full bleeds, no panel borders.
Let's see. Is this still Dean, or is this the other artist?
That's still Dean. That's still Dean. Yeah. And
Oh,
see
wow.
this one here. Look, go back.
Yeah, look
right
at
there.
that one. That's really good. Yeah.
Where are we going?
Right there. Right there.
Okay.
The panel borders are actually the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The rain
Great
becomes
idea.
the panel borders.
Damn, wish I'd thought of that.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so here's a very modern page right here.
Yeah.
This is like
no panel
borders.
Yeah.
Yet there are at least 4 panels there?
Yeah, one.
At least 4, maybe 5.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
4 panels.
4 panels with
It
no
is kind of
borders.
more. Yeah, that's that's a bold move right there. That's
Yeah.
what that is.
It works.
And it works.
It works.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. That.
Okay.
Oh, look at that! Look at that whiff leading you right into that kick.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that Z. Look at that. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I still have that page.
Yeah. So this is
my portfolio.
Nice.
So what's going on here? Like going from the old school to this. Like what do you think has happened? Like what is happening in our brains when we get to here?
Well, for one thing, technology is helping us out. Okay.
Right.
We have to give props to digital coloring and the different ways of printing now, because it has expanded the repertoire of what is possible.
Right.
And
but layout wise, what has happened? So we've gone from a 12-panel grid or a 6-panel grid or a 9-panel grid to this.
movies.
Well,
Movies.
and
Right.
I think there's an aspect where I'm not constrained. Like if I say, 6 panels and I make you think grid, you as an not you. I'm not trying to speak for artists, but
Yeah.
I would
No, you're okay.
an artist would be constrained, right? Like if you look at how the 3 panels are laid out here, right? If I tried to put you in a grid, I feel like you would even waste, I don't want to say waste space, but a lot too much space to a gutter, as opposed to just use that space and you can get whatever detail you want in there in that space without the constraint of a gutter. Like, and I almost feel intimidated as a writer when you look at the new stuff. I don't want to constrain you. So I still put panel counts in mind because I have to lay out how many words are in there. But
Yep.
man, there's this whole weight of, man, I want to give the artist as much room as possible because then they produce stuff like this, as opposed to my kind of archaic panel thinking sometimes, because that's how I have to systemically, attribute words to the page. Right.
And yet Roland was giving a script, and this is how the script was interpreted.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
Same thing with that R.A. Jones page I did earlier. He broke it down by panels. I got critiqued one time by an old time editor. He said I had all these little peel up panels on my pages, and so, but that's, you're trying to keep it exciting. You're trying to make it different. You're trying to do something that'll make the page interesting to look at, but at the same time carry you through the storytelling. And Dean has done a masterful job of it here. He's done a really cool kick in that one big panel, and the rest. And I had Steve Lytle told me this one time. He says, pick one panel out the page and make that your central panel and build everything else around it. And that's what Dean has done here. He picked that last panel with that kick in it to make that his money shot, and then he's built everything else around it. So it carries you right on through.
And I've been an inker for him off and on for 30 plus years, and we've had a lot of discussions, and he is very, very into cinematography. He watches movies for the angles and the points of view, and he'll point out, look at this photo from James Bond, Goldfinger or whatever. Like this is awesome, So a lot of artists, I think, are like Dean these days in the fact that they look at movies and think how they can pull or bring a cinematographer's point of view to a comic book page. And back in the day, that wasn't, they didn't correlate it. These days, movies and comics are very simpatico.
Yeah.
That's well, really interestingly enough, what ended up happening with movies though is some movies ended up some of the guys when they started innovating in the comic space. Some of the guys in the movie industry noticed what the comic guys were doing and said, "Hey, why don't we incorporate that into our movie?"
Very simpatico.
So they're feeding off of each other.
And so then they kind of end up cycling through. Yep. All right. Well, we've kind of hit the top of the hour there, folks.
And
wasn't sure
ending
where this
with,
was going to go.
A nice kick to the head.
Yeah. So comics came from an interesting place, more of a rigid structure, and then it eventually got to this place where you have very dynamic pages. There is an article that Barb has found if people are interested on the formalities of comics and where they come from and how the page layouts used to exist and what they're like now. And there's also, if you go looking up online, you can also find out there's guys who have lessons on how to do a formal comic page and do the layouts with the golden ratio. And it's very fascinating how actually those layouts end up.
And
if you do a formal,
anybody
if
who
you do
wants
a
to study
right, yes,
comics, those
and
books,
those are
right
absolutely wonderful books right there. They're excellent books. Understanding Comics, Reinventing Comics. He also did a follow-up book, a third one as well.
which
I can't remember.
I don't think I have a copy of, but
Or-
I should look
I
at
think
getting,
I think Reinventing
one.
Comics was So
there was
I'm trying to remember if
understanding. There was another
Yeah.
Understanding Comics one, wasn't there? There was a
yeah,
second
yeah,
one.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, there was
Yeah.
an Understanding Comics 1 and 2,
and then and then
and then-
Reinventing was the third
yeah.
one. Yeah.
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 So I have the third one. I probably have the second one around here somewhere too.
Yeah.
If I'd look a little deeper.
So yeah. So grids were back in the day, and now we got modern grids, and those are some Silverline books that we were showing off. So if those look exciting to you, please go look up Silverline. Ask for Silverline books in your comic book store. And what's the latest book that's out? Anybody? No?
Let's see. It's in previews right now. I'm blanking.
Is it Kalis or Trumps?
I think it's Kalis. I
Yeah,
think Kalis
Kalis.
is in this previews. So or it could be the last issue of Trump's 4.
So
Trump's 4.
yeah.
I forget which one it is, but it
This
could be
is
Trump's
what-
4.
this is what Kalis looks like, people. It's a great book.
Mhm.
Now this book uses traditional grids, and then they break them, and to great effect. So awesome book, best dad book ever.
He says that every time, folks.
Every single time I'll say it.
He does. It's a
But
great dad
it
book.
is such a good
He's
book.
he's a believer, man. He's a believer.
It's such a good book. Like, I don't know, like he just grabs you and like you're along for the ride, and you're like, give me more.
And it's an interesting concept. Definitely.
Oh yeah, very much so. So if you want a modern take on Superman, this is it.
Mhm.
At least that's my opinion. So yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We hope you learned something tonight. At least I did. And
Yeah. Well, let the boys go watch the Pink Panther.
yes, we'll let them go. All right. Yeah, they're kind of chomping at the bit here. So I'm gonna
No
have to
kidding,
shut up.
man. I would be too.
Yeah. So yeah. So as we always say, ladies and gentlemen, wait, hang on. Let me make sure we got our bumper to get out. So are we ready to go? Hang on. There we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Make mine
Silverline.
Silverline.
Hey, I'm G-Rod. Make mine Silverline. You heard me.